Hey everyone, in this video we are going to be configuring a custom certificate for the Cisco ISE server utilizing the Microsoft Certificate environment. This can be useful for situations where you have Active Directory integration and you would like to streamline the authentication process while also using an Active Directory or certificate that's in Active Directory. So to get started, we need to generate a certificate signing request. So we're going to navigate to Administration, and we're going to navigate to Certificates. In this tab, we can go to System Certificates, and you can see the existing self-signed certificates that ISE uses by default, as well as a Trusted Certificate Store. One of the things we'll be doing is exporting or importing the domain certificate authority root certificate, and if you had subordinate certificate authorities, you'd import those as well into this menu here. But let's first start by getting this process going. So we're going to generate a certificate signing request. There's a number of different types of certificates we can utilize. We can make this very specific for EAP authentication, portal, pxgrid, etc. We're going to just say multi-use, and then from there, if we needed to generate a different certificate, we could generate one for a portal and utilize that just for a hotspot portal or guest portal. So we want to select the node for Lab ISE, and this will allow it to fill in the common name information. We also want to put in our organizational unit, organization, city, state, country. We can also put in some subject alternative name information, such as DNS name, IP address, URI, or directory name. I'm going to do IP address as my another SAN, so let's do 10.10.1.36. Let's also do one for the DNS name. You could also, if you were doing this as a multi-use cert and you wanted to use this for like a guest portal, you knew the DNS name for the guest portal, you could also fill that in with like guest.outlet.us if you wanted to redirect there. We're not going to, we're just going to use this for EAP authentication. Now here's a very important part. Key length and the SHA value. So the minimum you want to choose is 2048 nowadays, and the SHA, you want to use SHA-2 or SHA-256. This will make sure that you meet compliance standards going forward. So we're going to go ahead and click Generate and Export. And let's save this file. All right, now, that pretty much is it, at least for getting the certificate portion started from the ISE perspective. Now we're going to get into the certificate authority. In my instance, I have my domain controller certificate authority in one server. I do not recommend that in a large-scale environment because you do want to separate out the services, and typically you want to have a or a hierarchical certificate authority environment or PKI environment to where you have a root CA and then subordinate CAs that actually hand out certificates that are used, for devices. But anyway, so let's get started here. So we want to open up our certificate services, certificate authority management tab here, and then we're going to navigate to certificate templates. I actually have one I created already, but I want to show you what you would do if you were going to do this from scratch. So all you need to do is have a web server certificate that provides server authentication, such as this. Wow, this window is small. Such as this ISE web server cert that I built right here. You can always take a web server cert and clone it and make sure that the server authentication is configured. So if we navigate over to, let's see, can't remember where this is located now for some reason. Let's see, general, cryptography. Yeah, there's an area to select in here that you can select the, I think it might be under here. Yeah, make sure that, the description of the policy is that it uses server authentication. If you needed to, you could add that in underneath the extensions portion, and that just allows it to say, hey, this is my certificate, this is who I am, I'm the server. So anyway, I have this pre-built, so since it's pre-built, one of the things that we have is I've gone ahead and used a certificate template to issue, and I've issued this as this ICE web server certificate. Now that that's done, what I need to do is I need to paste in my my certificate signing request into the window here. So let's go to 10.10.1.20, cert serve, log in with my user account. And then we're going to request a certificate, and then submit a certificate request by using a base64 encoded CMC or PKCS number 10 file. And we're going to select ICE Web Server Cert. Now, we have to paste in the information that we received from that certificate signing request. So I'm going to go ahead and downloads. Let's open this with a text viewer. I like to use I don't like to use text edit, but I don't have Text Wrangler on this machine for some reason, so we'll use text edit anyway and hope it doesn't mess with any of the characters. Let's go ahead and copy and paste there, and then click submit. Now we have two choices. Just leave it as dir encoded, and let's download the certificate, and let's save it. Okay, so that is the ICE server certificate. Now one more process we need to do is we need to download the certificate chain, which in this case, I just have a CA certificate, so let's just download the CA certificate as well. And we have to remember that this is marked as cert new 1, and this is cert new for the ICE server. So let's navigate back over to ICE here. So we have the CSR built. Let's move over to trusted certificates and import. So first we're going to browse to the certificate file. And we're going to use this cert new 1. Friendly name, we're going to call this Alnet DCCA. And we can add some extra services here. You could trust for authentication of Cisco services if you have multiple ICE servers and you have like PXGrid and such. We could also say validate certificate extensions. Typically, I just leave these pretty default and just say to trust for authentication within ICE. So let's click submit. We can always add these later. And here soon it should save. So as you can see now we have Alnet DCCA and it is enabled. So now we're going to import the system certificate for ICE. So let's go ahead, or actually, never mind, that was incorrect. We're going to go to the certificate signing requests, and then we're going to click the one that we created, and we're going to click bind certificate. And this makes sure that it uses this, it says that the CSR we put in here is the one is fulfilled, and here's the certificate that fulfills that. So here's cert new. Let's call this ICE01 lab ICE. And then let's say that we're going to use this for admin and then EAP authentication. And we're not going to use it for PXGrid or Portal because Portal we want to make sure is a publicly or root signed certificate from a public entity because no one else is going to trust the certificate anyway. So we're going to go ahead and click submit. Once we do, it's going to restart the server, which could take a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and we'll come back once that service comes back online, and then we can verify that the certificate is the proper one being used. All right, so everything is back online, and one of the things I did, let me close that out, is when you redo the certificate, you have to refresh the page, and if you're not part of the domain, which this machine is not, as it is a Mac, and I do not have the certificate added in my trust store, so it still says connection is not secure. However, if we click more information, you can see that it's verified and signed by the Alnet DCCA, and if I go to where is the view certificate, we can see some of the signing information and the expiration date and everything has changed. So let's go ahead and log back in and verify the certificate. And this might take just a second. We did restart everything. And one thing to keep in mind as well is that since we did change the certificate, if there were devices that were already authenticating to an SSID, they may be prompted with a certificate, more or less a certificate error stating to accept a new certificate from the Radius server, as we did change the EAP or EAP authentication certificate. This will be for any non-domain connected devices. And one of the nice things about adding this certificate in is that any device that does trust the root CA, as in a domain machine, should never have that accept certificate pop up on their machine. This is not loading. Let's try and refresh the page. Let's try this in a incognito, or whatever this is called, private window here. Did look like the services were all started. Let's just double check. This is always fun. Let's try another browser. Maybe while we're waiting it loaded. That would be amazing. Nope. Ah, there it is. Okay, never mind. I was just being impatient. So, if we navigate over to Administration and Certificates, and then Certificate Management here, let this load for a second. Let's go to System Certificates. There you go. Okay, now you can see that we still have our self-signed certificates here. We also have this new ISE01 Lab ICE certificate that I uploaded through that certificate signing request. If we click Edit, you can see here that if we wanted to, we could add back in, like, using this for PXGrid as well as for a portal. But as I stated earlier, we probably don't want to do that unless, unless you had a need for like internal users to authenticate to a certain portal. I would probably do that still with a root certificate. So then if we go to Trusted Certificates, we can see here that we have the DCCA. It is enabled, and it is infrastructure or trust for infrastructure. Let's make sure everything is selected here. So we are trusting for authentication within ICE, and that should be it. So, going forward in the videos that I'm going to record, this will be the certificate, well, more so, this will be the certificate that will be presented to all my devices when I authenticate. I hope this was informative for you, and I thank you for viewing.